So I want to get started here because we have a whole bunch of information to present to you tonight. And so to start off, my name is Cliff Warner. I have been involved with FIRST Robotics in this district since my older son, who's now a sophomore in college, was actually at this school in 4th grade. So I've been doing this for 10 years now. And it's always fun coming back here to Hillendale because I had 2 kids come through this school, and it's always nice to be back here. So tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about FIRST Robotics, all the programs that we have in our district that run from kindergarten all the way through some of our seniors in high school. And we're going to tell you a little bit about it, some of what we've accomplished in the past year, and where we're going to go in the next couple weeks or months in getting ready for the new season, which starts right away in the beginning of September. Okay, with that, some of you may wonder, what's this FIRST thing that people keep saying? And FIRST stands for Inspiration and Recognition in Science and Technology. This is a program that was created by Dean Kanan in 1989. So it's almost coming up on our 30th anniversary. And I'll let you read that. That's the mission of FIRST. It's about inspiring young people to be science and technology leaders, engaging them in exciting mentor-based programs that build science, engineering, and technology skills, and that inspire innovation and a well-rounded capabilities, including self-confidence, communication, and leadership. You'll hear a lot of this tonight, is that FIRST is more than just these neat robots that we build and have fun with. There's a lot more to the program than that. The vision that Dean Kanan created for this program many years ago. Oh, and I should mention, who knows who Dean Kanan is? What's he famous for? Nope, put your hands down. Anybody know out there? Bingo. Yep. That's what people know him for. He actually has invented many more things than the Segway. He has a whole bunch of patents to his name for very innovative medical devices and tools as well. Sorry, I should have mentioned that earlier, but that's who Dean Kamen is. And our vision in this program is to transform our culture by creating a world where science and technology are celebrated and where young people dream of becoming science and technology leaders. Dean Kamen wanted to have programs that did kind of what sports do in our schools, where it's essentially a sport for the mind, is the phrase you'll hear frequently. Well, those are a whole bunch of words, and I thought maybe a better way to do this, to put a little bit of what this means as a program, is a video that one of our students, and I didn't introduce ourselves either, we are the Flaming Phoenix from Unionville High School. One of our students on our team, Austin Waugh, put this video together to tell you a little bit about what FIRST is.
Everyone, is you ready? Yeah! Are you both ready? Yeah!
Wait, how did we get here? In FIRST Robotics, we learned how to respectfully share our opinions in a large group and brainstorm ideas. We learned how to convert our ideas into 3D models and then into tangible parts. We learned to test and test again until we finally have a working product.
We were taught to persevere until we accomplished our goals. We learned how to program, how to implement all of our moving parts into one unified body.
Along the way, we helped out a few people with the information and knowledge we gained throughout the past couple of years. Then we go to competitions.
On the field, we're surrounded by people like us. Bright teenagers with equally bright futures. We have the excitement to compete as friends. And while we are against each other, it doesn't stop us from showing gracious professionalism.
We don't simply compete, we dance. We dress up, we connect, we make friends. In this society, we make friends from all around. If someone ever asks me why first, I respond with, why family?
Thank you, Austin. Okay, so that's a little bit about what FIRST is and what it's about. Let's talk about some specifics about the programs. So there are 4 programs in FIRST that are age graded all the way from kindergarten all the way up to seniors in high school. It starts with FIRST Lego League Junior that runs from kindergarten through 3rd grade. And I'll go into more detail in just a minute or so into what each one of these programs entails. From there, we have FIRST Lego League, or FLL, and that goes from 4th grade all the way up through 8th grade. We have a little bit of overlap between FLL and the next competition, which is FIRST Tech Challenge, which our team participates in, and that goes from 8th grade all the way up to seniors in high school. And last but not least, there is FIRST Robotics Competition. These are the big bots, and these robots, these teams are only in high school. We do not have an FRC team in our district, and there's a bunch of reasons why, and we can talk about that in a little bit. But those are the main FIRST programs. So in a little more detail, let's talk about FIRST Lego League Junior. If you like to build and create with Legos, FLL Junior is for you. Okay? It is, the teams are given a real-world challenge every year, and the challenge is released worldwide in the 1st or 2nd week of September. Teams build a Lego model that includes a simple machine and a motorized part around that challenge. They do research on the challenge subject, and they put together a show me poster about their team with their findings. They present this at what's called a FLL Junior Expo. We had one of these this past year at Patton Middle School. There's a number of them in the region around Philadelphia, which is our district. And they present their model and their show me poster at an expo. Moving up to FLL, or FIRST Lego League, now we kind of start to do a little bit more with, we actually use they build with Legos, but they take it to actually building a robot. And this right here is one of the FLL fields. Again, similar to with FLL Junior, they're given a challenge every year at the beginning of September. And that challenge, part of that is their subject that they have to research. There's a project component to it. They're challenged to come up with an innovative solution to that project phase and to share it with others. They now start programming with Lego Mindstorm's EV3 robot, and they actually build a robot that will compete on a table, such as the one you're seeing over here to my, well, your right, my left. Every year there's a new, the field itself is a 4x8 sheet of plywood with 2x3s around it. That stays a constant, but the mat and the game pieces will change every single year with a new game. And they build a robot that goes out and tries to accomplish a list of various missions that they're given every single year. Again, there's competitions. It starts at our local level, which is around the Philadelphia area. And we compete in 2 phases. There's a judging phase where they go in and they present their robot, their programming, and their project. And then there's a field competition phase where we have 2 of these fields back to back, and they go up and they try and accomplish as much as they can of the missions that they've worked on, and they get scored on that. So that's the next that piece. From there, we move up to FIRST Tech Challenge. And FIRST Tech Challenge, here's where we really take a step into learning to think like engineers. These students build and program robots, develop strategy, and they have to document their project in an engineering notebook. And to compete head-to-head in the game, like you saw a little bit of in that last video. They engineer parts, mechanisms. They're cutting things out of metal and forming them out of plastics doing 3D printing, using servos, DC motors, gears, chains, cogs, you name it. You can see that's our robot from this past season, and there's a lot of things that go into constructing that, but it's a lot of fun doing it. They design with CAD, okay, so they're getting real-world experience in designing and engineering in CAD, and on our team we design and engineer in CAD and then build from that design. They write code in Java, okay, so you're getting some real-world coding experience in here. And at our competitions, there again, similarly to FLL, there is a judging phase where we talk about what we do, our outreach, our programming, our design, our engineering, and we're judged on a whole bunch of different potential awards. And then there's the field competition phase. As we start to talk about high school, one interesting thing with FIRST is there is potential for a lot of scholarships out there. A lot of schools put scholarships out for FIRST students, particularly in the science and technology area. And one of the reasons why is if you hear Woody Flowers, one of the other people that helped create FIRST, who is a emeritus professor from MIT, he'll tell you any of the kids that come through this program going into MIT were a year ahead of kids who hadn't. That's the kind of experience and real-world experience they get. All right, so first robotics competition. As I said, this is where things get really big. These guys build robots that are 2 feet by 3 feet by like 5 feet tall, weigh 150 pounds, fly around a field the size of a basketball court at speeds up to 20 miles an hour. Now, we don't have one of these programs in our district yet. Part of the reason is cost. We'll talk about cost on these programs later on. This is where it kind of gets really nonlinear. It's also a scope and scale and the way this program runs during the year. FRC runs really, really heavy for 6 weeks. They got a compacted build season that they're allowed to design and engineer the robot for 6 weeks. Unfortunately, that hits in January, and I think personally that gets really tough with our high school students and midterms and things like that. So we haven't created an FRC team yet. Who knows, we might do that in the future, but for now we are in FLL Junior, FLL, and FTC. So I said there's 4 programs in FIRST. Well, I lied. As of literally 2 months ago, there's a whole new thing coming out in FIRST. This is brand new, called FIRST Global Challenge. It is a new format competition that FIRST is kind of testing here. One of the things they've been wanting to do is make our programs more expanded around the globe. And Dean Kamen has been trying to push that, and he went to actually a local congressman of ours, Joe Sestak, some of you might recognize that name, and said, how can we make this happen? And Joe, kind of knowing his way around Washington and the world, actually made this happen. And what this is kind of set up like an Olympic competition. 1 team per country. They have 160 countries showing up in Washington, D.C. this summer between July 16th and 18th at the DAR Constitution Hall. They are given a challenge. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of a mashup between what we do in FTC and FRC. But if anybody's super interested in looking at new things coming out in FIRST, that is actually being held this summer. If you happen to be down in DC in that time frame, it might be something fun to see. One of our alumni from Unionville High School happens to be working on the group that's trying to put this together and get it out there, so I was helping him by giving him a plug. All right, so I'd like to talk a little bit about our accomplishments this last year, because we have a bunch of parents here and some other folks that did a lot of hard work this past year, and we actually achieved some tremendous things in this district that I'm particularly proud of. We had the most teams in FIRST program that we've ever had. We had 20 teams. We had 6 FLL Junior, 12 FLL, and we had 2 FTC teams this past season. So that set some new records for us. We did manage to run the Patent FLL tournament and the FLL Junior Expo, even with the snow, sleet, rain, and the high school bomb threat. So, yeah, that was quite an adventure. 2 days before, I had 4 hours cut out of my schedule, but we managed to get it in and get it done. But more than that, that's kind of what some of us are going to be able to manage. I really want to acknowledge what some of the kids accomplished, and they've accomplished tremendous things this year. If you look at our FLL Junior, I know I don't have the whole list here, but a couple teams that came back to me and told me some words. The Technical Difficulties got the Efficient Builders Award at their expo, and Team Honey Guide got the Peer Education Award. Our FLL teams did incredibly well this year. We had 4 teams that advanced from the local qualifiers to our regional competition in Philadelphia. We had the Robo Stars, which advanced to the regional. Congratulations. And there, not only did they advance to it, they placed second place in mechanical design. So that's tremendous out of 48 teams. Team Aha Moment from Copson, I don't know what they did at their qualifier because I didn't get that information from them, but I know they moved to the regional championship and they got second place in the Gracious Professionalism Award. Again, great accomplishment. The Silver Wolves, right over here, our team from Hillendale, won the Rising Star Award at the Patent FLL qualifier, advanced to the regionals, and they were 8th place out of 48 teams at that competition. The Robotic Rulers won the Core Values Inspiration Award at the qualifier they attended, and also moved on to the event, the Penn FLL Regional Championship. So that's great. We had 4 teams move on. That's a record from our district, and I think that's really speaks to what these kids have accomplished. Not to be left out, the Patent Power Pandas won the Innovative Solution Award for their project at the Patent FLL qualifier. Again, that's really an accomplishment. At those qualifiers, you have a lot of teams doing a lot of excellent work, and that's huge recognition. So, not to be outdone, our cast of characters I have over here did a little bit of a good job this year. That's what they accomplished. So they did quite a bit. You'll see at our qualifying tournaments, they won awards, Connect Award, PTC Design Award. In state level competitions, both in Delaware and Pennsylvania, again, they won awards for Connect and PTC Design. From there, they moved to what's called the super regional competition. So in FTC, the country's cut into quarters, and those are your 4 super regions. So the whole northeast corner of the United States, they went and competed against 72 other teams, and they again placed very high, second place in the PTC Design Award. That's a really prestigious thing to win, or get second place. And they were in 5th place in their division after qualifying out of 32 teams. So that's quite an accomplishment. And because of that performance, they were given a spot at the championships in St. Louis. And so we traveled out to St. Louis, and they were nominated for the Design Award. And that's 6 teams get nominated out of 128 of the best teams in the world. So that's a huge accomplishment, and I hope that they feel proud of what they did this year. So that's a little bit of looking back. So now let's look forward a bit. I like this quote from Dean Kamen. And actually, so we'll look forward in a minute, but you know, I think you could see a little bit from all the things that were accomplished in there in the awards. You saw gracious professionalism, you saw Connect, you saw a bunch of things in there that are not directly about the robot. And I thought this quote from Dean Kamen was really good. It goes, "First is more than robots. The robots are a vehicle for students to learn important life skills. Kids often come in knowing what to expect, not knowing what to expect the program, nor themselves, and they leave even after the first season with a vision, with confidence, and with a sense that they can create their own future." I'd like you to hear from some of our high school students, and I have 4 members from our team that are going to talk to you a little bit about their experiences in first. That will hopefully shine some light as to how they've seen this. So with that, I'd like to invite up 4 of our team members, Christiana, Matt Farr, Rachel Fulmar, and Justin Warner.
So my name is Christiana, and this is my 8th year in the first program. I spent 4 years in FLL, and this was my 4th year in FTC. and I really just cannot stress how amazing this program has been for me. I like looking back at where I was 8 years ago, because if you had met me in 4th grade, you probably wouldn't have recognized me. Yeah, I was a lot shorter and blonder, but I was also really shy and stubborn. And I didn't really like engineering. Like, I liked Legos, but... And that's really where it all begins for everybody. The main goal of the first program is to encourage engaging STEM education for younger students. But this program is so much more than just a kit of parts. There's this culture about FIRST. And the FIRST community is so kind and constructive that when you get there, everybody's so genuinely passionate about what they're doing, it's hard not to get swept away in all the excitement. FIRST was instrumental to the development of my personality, my creative interests, and my public speaking skills. I was horribly shy and hated speaking in public before I joined this program, but it's given me the chance to figure out who I am and how I fit into a team. Not only have I learned how to think and create like an engineer, I've been given the confidence to do so. FIRST has changed my life, and it's given me so much more than a few t-shirts and a robot.
Hi, my name is Matthew. I'm an 8th grader at Patton Middle School. 2 years ago, I was in the same place as all of you, asking questions about FIRST and trying to determine if I wanted to participate. I have always excelled in math and science at school. I have taken every science camp known to mankind, participated and won awards at science fairs, enjoyed Kumon math until my head spun, built many devices of potential mass destruction, well, at least home destruction. Sorry, Mom and Dad. I even built my own backyard death ray. Seriously, Fresnel lenses are amazing. The list goes on, all caused by perhaps too much idle time and a brilliant mind. So, with some parental pressures, I found FTC and thought, hey, this sounds like me. This past year, we had a challenge of shooting a ball to hit a target 20 inches diameter and 54 inches high, but no higher than 72 inches. Now, how hard could that be? We applied every bit of math and science we could find, specifically physics, geometry, algebra, and math and science, and material sciences. We ultimately needed to understand friction and how force could be imparted on the ball to determine which type of device we would use for our design. Between the original and final designs of time, it is a time management portion that we are forced to deal with. Do we have enough time to build the perfect device? This is where team input and communication takes place. I can tell you, we do not always agree on which path is the right path, and sometimes it gets interesting. But in the end, we always have to take a path and accept the consequences. In school, we spend a lot of time learning for learning's sake, which, to anyone who knows me, is not really my idea of a good time. But in FIRST, we learn and apply and live what we have learned to accomplish every task. This is where I have fun, and this is why I would recommend FIRST for anyone ready for the challenge.
Hi everyone, my name is Rachel Fulmar, and this has been my first full year on a robotics team. I say full year because last year I joined a team part of the way through their season. They were a rookie team, full of boys in my grade who pestered me just enough to convince me to attend one competition and one meeting. That was it. That's all it took to get me completely hooked on robotics. Now, as this was a rookie team who had just lost their qualifying matches pretty badly, the season ended quickly after that. The next year, the two mentors and their families left the district and the team was no more. But after just 2 days of robotics, I knew I had to continue. Luckily for me, Team 7423 was looking for some new members, and I eagerly applied. I was so fortunate to have found a team with amazing mentors who allowed me to dive deeper into this newfound passion. Had it not been for the mentors of that very first team or the mentors of my team now, I wouldn't be standing here before you today talking about one of my favorite things in the world. But because of their commitment, I am. I do not take lightly the amount of work that mentors like ours put into this program. My dad's an FRC mentor, and during their season, he spends hours with his team each day. But I know that I can speak for everyone on my team and probably a lot of the kids in the audience when I say that it means so much to us that mentors and coaches are willing to give up their time and energy to help us find and achieve our dreams. And so I leave you with this. Yes, the kids are why FIRST exists, but the parents, coaches, and mentors who help us along the way are why FIRST happens.
Hi, I'm Dustin Warner. I'm a sophomore at UHS. I've been around for 7 years. I was in FLL for 2 years, and I was around and in FTC for 5 years. So when I first joined FLL back in 4th grade, for me, it was something I did after school. It was a fun hobby. We would meet about once a week. We would go to our competition, and that was it. It was fun. But when 6th grade, when I learned about FTC from my brother, I knew I had to join a team. So in 8th grade, I joined Flaming Phoenix, and I quickly knew I found my place. I learned what I could gain from the program and the competitions, and I put my mind to FTC. It became my passion. My team in FTC, as well as all the other people I've met at competitions, are more than just friends. They're a family. I've met so many amazing people, from brilliant students to incredible mentors and parents and volunteers. I've had amazing experiences from the local qualifiers up to the World Championships in St. Louis. And I've learned amazing skills like CAD, robot design, as well as helpful ones like working as a team, public speaking, and leadership. But all of these things I've learned and I've done with the team wouldn't be possible without the parents. The incredible work that our mentors put in does not go unnoticed. And we wouldn't be standing here today talking to you guys without them. As founder Woody Flowers says, it's for the kids.
Thank you. All right. So, hope that gave you a little bit of flavor of what some of our students have been through quite a bit of the program, and some maybe that joined it real recently, experiencing it. Okay, so let's get into a little bit about what we do from here. So, does anybody know what happened on May 15th? And no, I'm not talking politics. First open for registration for the next season. So, yes, we are getting started already. Teams, people are registering teams as we speak, and we can get started in that. So what we're going to start talking about from here to the end is a little bit of detail about how we do things and have done things in this district and what we're going to try and accomplish for the rest of tonight and then moving forward towards between here and September. So a bit about how teams are organized. The first thing, coaches. We can't have teams unless we have coaches. So one of my key tasks is to identify parents who are potentially interested in being coaches of teams, either returning coaches or new coaches. Okay, and so part of tonight is we're going to ask, is there parents here that are interested in doing that? And we'll talk some more about what that means. For FLL Junior and FLL teams, what we have typically done in the past, and this seems to work pretty well, is to go school by school, and we will have a place for you to, later on, by school for you to express your interest in the program. And we collect the names of the students that are interested and parents that are potentially interested in coaching, and we try and work to form teams from those lists. Many of our teams are clubs in their school, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute or two. That isn't as important for FLL Junior. It may be important for some FLL teams. It's really important for us in FTC, and I'll explain when we get to the money part. The size of a team. I get a lot of questions about this. First has a size limit, although when you look at things, you'll hear me say tonight and probably in the future, well, there's rules in first and then there's the rules, and these things are frequently overlooked. Let's say by first at times I've seen FTC teams with 20 kids in them. But these are, I think, more guidelines. I can tell you, you probably don't want to go beyond 10 kids in an FLL team because they're not all going to be able to actually do enough, I think, when you get too big. So FLL Junior first says teams really should be 6 students or less. FLL 10 and FTC 10. I often recommend to new coaches, don't go to the maximum, okay? If you're new to the program and new to running a team, my guidance is, an FLL team, 4 to 6 is actually a good number for you to get kind of your feet wet in the program, understand how to run a team, and not be too overloaded. For us, in our team, we have a team of 9 in our high school team. Teams meet, and it varies a little bit by program. I would say an FLL junior team typically will meet, from what I've heard from various coaches, is once a week for an hour and a half. Okay? FLL teams, typically it could be anywhere from 1 to 2 times a week for an hour and a half to 2 hours. Again, it will vary by the team. Some that are highly motivated and have been with it a while and are really raring up to move up through advancement in the various qualifying and regional tournaments will put more time in, but not everybody does. That's a pretty typical number. You can do quite a bit with that level of time commitment. With FTC, we bump it up a little bit. Our team typically meets twice a week, totaling about 4 to 5 hours a week. Now, there's caveats to this. Generally, I would say teams typically meet at coach or mentors' houses. Some meet in the schools. It all depends. It's up to the coach. And I mean, I ran FLL team meetings here in this school in the past. I know other people have. Some people run it out of their house. Team members can be. We have one team that was a mix of students from Pocopson and Chadds Ford. I mean, that's perfectly okay. We try and organize out of each of the elementary schools for the FLL teams, just because logistically where people live around our district, since it's so large, it tends to kind of make things more manageable, and we end up having more success in forming teams from that. I would say teams do need, and the coaches need to define their own time commitments. That's one of the things I guide them, is to set the expectations of what they're trying to do. And that is up to each coach, to the coaches to set the expectations for the team, and part of how they may even select students for the team. The season, as I mentioned a couple times, all of for FLL Junior, FLL, and FTC, first and second week of September is when all the games are announced. For FLL Junior and FLL, your qualifying tournaments will be in December, okay? Because our region, run out of Philadelphia, out of University of Pennsylvania, we have a lot of qualifying tournaments in the first 3 weeks of December. From there, if you do advance, it will be in February at Penn, and that will be the regional tournament. I believe it goes from there to state, and then you would go to the championships, which next year for us will be in Detroit. For our FTC team, it's a little bit different. FTC teams will go, we have qualifying tournaments that go up through the end of January. We have state level at the end of January, early February. We go to the super regionals in March, and if you're advance beyond that, our championship tournament this past year was the end of April. So we had a very long season. But this is a different program, so just to understand that time commitment is, and the length of the season differs significantly for FTC. I mean, you could go to I have a colleague of mine, his FLL team went to the championships in St. Louis out of Delaware, so his season did go to the end of April, so it can happen. All right, and again, I'd say with those guidelines for how often a team meets, you might find it's pretty typical. People are doing a little bit of catch up right before a competition, so the weeks leading up to that, week or two, you might do a little bit more. All right, so the thing that everyone wants to know is, what does this cost to do? These are some numbers, and I'll get into them in a minute. The way we've operated in our district is each team operates its own budget. In other words, we don't run an overall district-wide budget for this and share funds. Each team is going to deal with their own cost structure and fees, etc. These numbers are an estimate provided by FIRST for a first-year team, okay? And what that means is they include things such as initial registration, purchasing a robot kit of parts, a challenge set, and event registration fees. That would mean for a first-year team, probably they're looking at one event, a qualifying tournament, is their expectation, and for FTC, it'd be 2. So you can see, let me finish the bottom stuff first, and I'll get back. Veteran teams might be a little less, If you're an FLL team, your EV3 Mindstorm Kit, which goes into part of those cost structure, you can reuse year to year, right? Even in our competition, we can reuse some of our materials and our control system. Additional expenses that doesn't include are travel, food, team shirts, registration fees for advancement tournaments. So with the first Lego League Junior team, you know, $300 pretty much easily do you for a season. That's no problem. An FLL team probably is looking at about for a first year team where you got to buy a Mindstorms kit is probably looking more at $900. When we get to FTC, the budget goes up a bit. You know, a typical number that F First will tell you is $2,250. Now, just to give you a little bit of an idea, our entry fees for tournaments, because we went all the way to World Championships, were $2,550 this past year. So our World Championships entry fee was $1,000. So our budget is well beyond that. And that gets me to our last point. Because our budget was much higher, we operate because we do a lot of hard work, our students do a lot of hard work at raising money and getting donations. That means you need a 501c3 status to get charitable contributions, because most companies that were willing to donate money, you need that. That's where being a club can be important. Our school, one thing that Unionville-Chadsport School District has done for us is, and we kind of negotiated with them about, is that each of our teams on a school-by-school level can be a club at that school. That gives us access to their activities accounts, which are all covered by 501c3 status. So for example, in our high school, we can bring in funds from charitable contributions from companies and businesses out there and help support and run our program. So that's one of the key things that we can do, and that's why being a club is kind of important, particularly as you get to the higher levels in this program. Not all of our FLL teams have found a need for that. Some have gone and raised money and been able to use that to help themselves out. So I'm going to echo this again. I hate to be kind of be on this too far much, but you know, we really can't create these teams and do this without parents that step up and be coaches and mentors. We are a 100% parent-run organization in our district, and we've been lucky. We've had a lot of people that have been really enthusiastic and come out and participate, and you see earlier what I showed you, the results from that and what we were able to accomplish in the past year. But as we go forward and try and continue to create new teams, every year I'm looking for more parents to get involved and come in and continue to form teams as they move up and through the program. We need 2 coaches and mentors per team. That's a first rule. Another thing is, it's Pennsylvania state law that we have to do for all of us coaches and mentors. We have to go through, you know, the background checks and stuff that pretty much every volunteer organization you have to do. This is a school district policy and a FIRST policy. So, you know, for the school district, this is really easy to do these days because it's actually no cost to us, and through FIRST, there's no cost either. But there's a separate thing we have to do through FIRST to, as a coach and a mentor, to get through their child protection policy. I want to ask you guys a question. Everyone assumes that you have to be some brilliant engineer to lead a team. Our team, the Flaming Phoenix, was started by someone, and I want you to guess. Anyone want to give you a guess what the profession of the person was who, you guys put your hand down. I'm curious. Anybody have a wager or guess at what the profession of the person who started our team was? Call it out. No, I didn't create it. No idea? No, good guess, but no. No. Lucy McClure started our team 4 years ago? 4 years ago. She's a lawyer. Okay? No technical background at all. And she started our FTC team. She started our FLL team prior to that. So when I tell you that your skill set, your prime skill set as a coach and a mentor isn't being an engineer, I'm not kidding. It's time management, it's being able to help them focus and break down a big complicated task into smaller pieces so that they can manage it and accomplish things. But it isn't necessarily being an engineer, okay? I am an engineer, okay, so I'm a material science engineer, but that's not necessary. And there are ways we can get you help to do the technical piece of it. Our team right here has supported several of our FLL teams in the past year that were getting started with getting them to understand a little bit about how the programming works and how to work and build the Mindstorm robot. It is very rewarding to be a coach and mentor. I will say you will not regret it. It's going to be one of the more fulfilling things you'll ever do. You just need to be willing to give some time. And as I said, there's lots of local resources. So if you're on the fence and thinking about it, and you're thinking about potentially running a team, come talk to us. And once I'm done talking to you, and we can figure out how to get you the resources you need to make that happen. So the next steps. I'm going to have some of our students over here, and I have some clipboards and some forms for you to show your interest in the program. And that's where we start trying to put coaches and students together. I'm going to ask you kindly, when I need you to put down your name, your phone number, and your email to write legibly. And I say this because last year I got some hieroglyphics in there that the Egyptians would have been proud of. So it makes it really hard for me to find you and get a hold of you when I can't read it. So please, please, please write legibly when you put your information down. We will try and connect students and coaches from the same schools to start teams. And again, it all depends on our adult volunteers. We need you. Before we break, I want to open up the floor for any big general questions that folks may have. Anybody have any questions that you really want to get the whole audience? Yeah.
For the FLL juniors, can you give some examples of what kind of projects? Starting from kindergarten and onward, what are we expecting?
Dan, do you want to handle that one for me? Because you ran one. I never actually ran an FLL junior.
So we did FLL Junior not this past season, but the season before, and our theme was Trash Track. So the theme, Waste-wise, I'm sorry, Trash Track was the other kid. So Waste-wise. So the whole theme of the year was learning about waste, what happens to waste, what happens to things when we're done with them. So you can take that in a lot of different directions. You can go learn about landfills, you can go learn about recycling, you can learn about reuse. So the kids basically do research. Someone very helpfully set up a big field trip for our school district to a recycling center in Delaware, where we got to go and have a tour of it and learn all about it. And from there, you build a model that basically represents, something about what you learned. So it's sort of like a science fair. So you build a model on like an 18-inch by 18-inch Lego base. So our kids built a model of the MRF, the Materials Recovery Facility that we learned about, and each kid built sort of a different part of it. I think one kid built a conveyor belt that represented the sorter, and another kid built the part of the system that crushed up the glass, and another kid, I guess the first step in it was the house where the waste had been generated and put out at the curb we picked up, and another kid built the garbage truck that picked it up. So we had a model that sort of represented all these different parts of the process, and then we also put together sort of a poster showing what we learned.
Any other questions? Right there, yellow one shirt. No, so what each team will need to invest in a Mindstorm kit. Now, when you register your team, and it's been a little while since I registered an FLL team, but you do have ability to buy kits through them. It is actually cheaper not to do that and to buy it separately. But each team needs to invest in a Mindstorm kit. Now, I know many teams where multiple parents have bought them for their students to use, but you really need one per team. Yes.
Sorry, I came in late. You probably covered this. Can you give the age breakdown of first Lego League Junior and first Lego League?
Kindergarten to third grade for FLL Junior, 4th to 8th for FLL, 7th to 12th for FTC. There's a little overlap between FLL and FTC. Sorry? How do you register? Okay, so again, I'm not going to use the term register here because that gives the wrong impression to a lot of parents, and then I get people upset with me. Again, I'm going to have a couple of our team members over there with clipboards. Put down your name, your student's name, or your information, and we take that information and we're going to start working really hard over the summer to form and get teams together and get interested parties together. Once I get a coach and some team members and get that team formed, they register with FIRST and start dealing with that side of it. And I can help coaches with that, that I'm familiar with it. There's also some other things for new coaches. The Penn FLL down in Philadelphia at the University of Pennsylvania does run some training programs in August typically. So some of our new coaches might want to take advantage of that if they're available and have time. There are some things like that that can additionally help out with some of our new coaches or even returning coaches. Yes? It really depends. Yeah, okay, so the question was, are teams independent by kind of each grade year, like kindergarten team, a first grade team, a second grade team? I've seen it done every imaginable way you can think of in this district. I have had teams that spread quite a range, but typically, it tends to cluster around 1 year or a couple years. So we've had FLL junior teams that had kindergartners, first graders, and second graders on them. It all depends on and sometimes that's because parents have a first grader and a kindergartner and they put them on the team together, right? It does depend a bit on the coach and the team, and we could do it either way. I've seen other ones where it was all one grade and they continued to follow the program right straight through up into middle school. So it all depends. Yeah. Well, we do end up. So, folks that are here and are expressing interest and get in, it's a little bit of that. It's also a bit of what works, right? What is your student's availability? I can tell you if you sign up and when we're trying to form teams, you say, well, my child's only available on Thursday nights from 6 to 7:30. You're probably going to have a hard time getting on one of these teams because you got to look at the reality of you have an adult that's working their schedule of work and outside of work, and that may not be what they have available. And so sometimes that's how things don't work out either, right? So we try our best. I can tell you not everybody that expressed interest last year was able to get on a team. We did really well. 20 teams was a lot. But every year this program grows here, and we do our best to try and get as many students as we can in. Again, those were guidelines to some level, and sometimes we can get a coach or mentor who says, yeah, okay, I'll add another one. We can fit that student on this team and make it happen. So we try the best we can, we do as much as we can. So that's best I can answer your question. Yes. So I think I got your question. What you're asking is kind of what happens when they do a lot of this hard work and build this neat Lego model and do all that. Well, they go to a competition. They show it. There's judges that they talk to about all the work they did. And then they get to, there's awards given out. And so if they did a really good job, they're going to get an award and some acknowledgement for that hard work. All right, so I know we're kind of running a little too longer than I wanted for talking. So at this point, I think maybe it would be best is I'd like our various teams that are here to demonstrate some things. We have our FTC team here that's going to demonstrate their robots, our FLL. So why doesn't everybody get up out of their seats because you've all been sitting for too long. Come on down, and there's plenty of time and opportunity for you to talk to some of us, ask questions that you weren't able to ask yet, and see the robots and see the program. And my other students, I need you to go over and get the clipboards. They're up in the blue bag underneath the table.
Hi, I am Brandon Tai, a member of Flaming Phoenix Team 7423, an FTC team. FTC stands for First Tech Challenge. FIRST is actually an acronym standing for Inspiration and Recognition of Science and Technology. According to Wikipedia, quote, it is an international youth organization that operates First Robotics Competition, First Lego League, First Lego League Junior, and the First Tech Challenge. Founded by Dean Kamen and Woody Flowers in 1989, its express goal is to develop ways to inspire students in engineering and technology fields. The FTC season just ended last week with the World Championships in St. Louis. My team ranked 35th in our division out of a total of 128 teams who competed at the championship. We were also a finalist for the PTC Design Award, an award for the look and practicality of our robot. Our robot has to fit in an 18 by 18 by 18 inch cube, and it has to complete tasks on a field. The field, which looks like this, is an area where your robot can gain points and compete against other robots. This is my first year participating in robotics, and I had the time of my life. I worked with my teammates to make a nice looking and well-oiled machine. This is a program that can help me throughout my life, and it can help you if you join FIRST.